Hey, what's going on, everybody? Sorry, I'm multitasking today, so it got me doing the dishes as well. But yes, definitely want to get into the video. So today's topic, I think, is going to continue on the labor issue, especially with the longshoremen strike that I'm sure a lot of you've heard about so far. So let's just kind of get into it. So foremost, I really think that we really need to have an appreciation of history, right? I feel like most things, like my grandmother said, nothing new is under the sun. And a lot of these things that are happening politically and socially in the world are just like remixes of what's been going on before, right? So I feel like particularly with labor, and if you listen to some of the other videos, I think if you just get the overall theme that the goal of the people that control all the resources are just to make us, the laborers, more dependent upon them, right? And to have less options and recourses to help us, when we're being exploited. Because who really helps us, when things are happening? Like usually, right? It's the government that comes in, right? The government says, "Hey, this business can't do this," right? Or it's labor unions or labor groups, or they're just like, "Hey, we saw that this happened. Like you got to have this regulation and make sure everything goes down." So it really benefits business to not have those things around, right? You know what I'm saying? I was like, the more that business consolidates and the more that businesses gets rid of the things that regulate them and prevent them from doing everything they want to do, that's to their advantage, right? Which is why business, if you look at history, there has been no right that workers have received that benefit that business has advocated for. Never. Not a pay raise, not HR, not anti-discrimination, not, anything that we take for granted today as a labor right. The producers have actively fought against and are still fighting against. They're attacking overtime now. I don't know if y'all are listening to the news, but they are literally Project 2025 and some of the things that the labor, that the Republicans want to actually stop overtime. You know what I'm saying? It's like they want to stop the 40-day work week. They want to stop having businesses have mandatory health regulations or accommodations for people experiencing disabilities. So it's like this is what's happening, right? They're moving towards trying to go back to a time there was no regulation. And again, look at history. We need not look further than the Great Depression. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the advancements in labor and rights had happened at that point in time. There was no HR, there was no sexual abuse, there was no safe working conditions, there was no overtime, there was no 40-hour work week, there was none of the things that we all like. All those things were gathered through not only political fighting, but actual people died. People died to get labor rights. It's not just the movie. It literally happened. Business was not having it, and business continues to not have it. You know what I'm saying? And the only way that people like us have any advocacy, any chance. Just think about it. These people own everything, right? They own all the money. They own all the resources. They own all the stuff. So if we don't have anything to protect us, what do we have? Nothing. We are desperate for those resources to survive. And it's we understand the concept of a monopoly, right? You know what I'm saying? We understand hey, that might not be fair to all of us if there's a monopoly that exists. Because that means that entity can just charge anything. And just imagine, and there's a monopoly on things that you need. You know what I'm saying? And so that's where the government comes in and says, "Hey, you're not allowed to do this." But if you're really pro-business, if you're really on this side, business is everything, then what's wrong with the monopoly? Right? If a business, was successful and bought up all their competition and now they're the only shop in town, why is that wrong? Right? I mean, we know for the obvious purposes of the human side and for the labor side, but on the business side, they're advocating for the fact that it's actually discriminating against us to do that. Well, because a business and capitalism is only designed to make more and more profit. There is no magic, notion. Okay, well, this is enough profit, right? This number is enough. You know what I'm saying? Once you've achieved this, then you can start being nice and giving back to people, which is literally what the theory of trickle down economics is, right? It's once if you take care of all the corporations and everything works out, everything's going to be so profitable. Then corporations will, of course, just start giving everything back down to their workers and lowering prices and offering more things and higher wages and all that stuff. But again, let's look at history. Name me a point in history where that has ever happened. Ever. You know what I'm saying? I was like, to the point is, not only is it not happening, but like companies have never stopped fighting against it. And this is the real tea on that one. Like, think about immigrants working here that are maybe here illegally. What is going on? You know what I'm saying? It's like, we blame the laborers. You know what I'm saying? Like, these immigrants who more than likely have escaped from more dire situations and are in here, coming to America, you know, risking it all, not speaking the language. You know what I'm saying? Of course, knowing they're going to be objectified in some way and working just to try and make ends meet out of desperation. But we vilify those people. Right? We don't vilify the businesses that like literally rely on this labor. They rely on the desperation of illegal labor to fill their pockets, because they know if they had to pay a citizen, they'd have to pay triple. So they're going to exploit the desperation of the worker that's here illegally and then blame that worker. Like the people that are out of jobs, like they're not going to blame, the business that's intentionally and deliberately hiring these other people. They're going to blame the labor, because there's nothing with the labor that says like, okay, they could pay that labor a fair wage. Right? So the issue was like, okay, this unfair labor is going to come in and depress the labor market, depress wages. Why is that happening? It's only depressing wages because the fucking hiring people are lowering the wages because they're illegal workers. They're doing it on purpose. So it's like, again, like we're blaming the wrong parties. Like it's the business owners that are doing this specifically and deliberately, and then dividing the masses to try and make sure that we're angry at the other person. And also, mind you, many of the jobs that these the workers are entering are not fields that Americans are competing for. Like, for example, history, look at Arkansas. So I think about 10 years ago, Arkansas, or was it Alabama? It could be one of the two, but they made a decision to block all immigrant labor from working in their farms. And literally within a week, their farming industry collapsed. It collapsed. They could not find workers. And then they were paying them $15 to $20 an hour at that point in time. You know what I'm saying? Like, which was well above medium living wages in that region. And they still couldn't get people that wanted to stick with those jobs. You know what I'm saying? I was like, so they always are vilifying people. They need this labor force. They need people that are, desperate enough and skilled enough to be able to do some of these jobs that many Americans, quite frankly, aren't willing to do. But so my, concluding thing in this is like, labor is not the enemy. Collective bargaining rights with labor and the government coming in and helping out with business is literally the only thing that has protected us throughout time. And if you don't have an appreciation of history, you don't necessarily know that that's literally the case. I know we are always set up like, oh, the government's bad, labor unions are greedy, but like, no, look at the history books. It's always been the producers. It's always been the people that are hiring, that are trying to conserve their place. So there'll never be a time where they're not trying to ship labor around. That's why American jobs are not even here in some instances, because the businesses are like, hey, it's cheaper to hire somebody that's directly in Mexico. Let's build the factory there. They have no allegiance to the American worker, but yet we blame the American worker for all of the shit. All of it. And it's like almost kind of brilliant. You know what I'm saying? But I just want us to think about this differently. Support laborers. Support things that benefit laborers. Support regulatory agencies that hold these businesses in check. Support these labor unions that force these businesses to actually share in profits. Let's make it make sense. You know what I'm saying? I was like, so until next time.